industry stakeholders agree that demand needs to be the industry's top priority, which is why the National Pork Board is investing significantly in growing demand and launching a new consumer campaign this spring to ensure pork remains relevant and desirable in the marketplace. I'm Brownfield's Meghan Grebner. With me today is Dr. David Newman, Senior Vice President for Market Growth at the National Pork Board. And we're going to talk about the checkoff's most recent work to build a bigger appetite for pork here at home. David, it is so great to see you.
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
So at Pork Forum 2024, you spoke to delegates about a strategy for making pork more relatable and relevant to consumers. At Expo then last summer, National Pork Board launched consumer segments to fish where the fish are in digital media. So let's talk a little bit about the journey from research to insights and into action.
Sure. So first off, again, thanks for having me. And to quickly get to this, you referenced 2024 forum, and this has been a building story over time. And really what this is about is at the National Pork Board, we've taken an entirely new approach to understanding who our consumer is, and more importantly, Meghan, who our future consumer is. So we talk a lot about domestic production. It's been a challenging 4 or 5 years for producers in our business. And so right now, the best way I describe this is we've had a very big push on international marketing for the last 30 years, and we've seen tremendous growth, volume, value. That's exceptional. We want to keep that going. Even with the market uncertainty of where we're at today, regardless of that, one thing that we definitely have recognized through our data and insights engine known as Consumer Connect, we know one thing is that the long-term consumption of younger consumers is at risk when we talk about pork. The good news is we do know how to turn that around. And so this is really all about the consumer, using data to focus on who the consumer is and making sure that we can take a very strategic approach to the marketplace.
So based on the latest research, what are the key learnings about your specific segmentation of consumers?
Yeah, well, that's when you start deep diving into this consumer segmentation, which is honestly what any large company does when they're trying to market the one product they make. You need to know who your target audience is. You need to know who your consumer is, whether you're selling automobiles or you're selling household goods, or in our case, you're selling pork to consumers. So really using data to tell the story is important. And what the data tells us is that, as I mentioned, pork is not as relevant amongst younger consumers. And so they oftentimes do tend to favor other proteins. We're very, very relevant and very strong with the baby boomer generation as an example. But as that baby boomer generation gets older, they're eating less meat. And we need to start thinking about who's the next consumer for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And we need to understand what drives that consumer. And that's really important because when you think about millennials and Gen Zs, they eat entirely different, probably than we did, Meghan, certainly different than our parents did, and absolutely different than our grandparents did. And so you've got to understand what drives your consumer if you want to build this relevancy over time.
So let's talk about how the pork checkoff is reimagining pork in the marketplace today.
Yeah, that's the exciting part. We are going to roll out an entirely new campaign, which will be mostly digital focused. Again, we got to remember about how do these consumers shop in early May, just prior to grilling season. And so when I talk about this campaign, there's a couple of things that we need to start with. And the first one is you don't turn this thing around in a year. You don't turn this around in a day. This is a long-term approach. So we've got to make sure that everyone understands that we are trying to play the long game here. For years to come, we want to radically reposition pork in the marketplace and make it very relevant. And it's really important we do that. And the second thing I would say is when we talk about a large consumer marketing campaign, I'm talking about the largest branded campaign that we have done in decades. Something to the scale of the most iconic brand that you remember well, which is Pork the Other White Meat. This is about repositioning pork unapologetically. So we are moving at that scale so that we can reposition the only thing our farmers make is pork, so that we can position that to consumers in absolutely the best way moving forward.
David, thank you. And it's always great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you. Thank you.
Thanks for talking with us today about how the pork checkoff is building a bigger appetite for U.S. pork. And for those who want to find out more information about what Pork Checkoff is doing, go to porkcheckoff.org.